Hi, welcome back, my shining stars of the night sky. Anyway, in this video I'm making a Selkie inspired dress, specifically their puff dress. My Instagram feed has been flooded with their beautiful designs, and I just needed to make something with really puffy sleeves and a voluminous skirt, so that's what I'm making. And obviously, me being me, I found a somewhat elaborate way to not put in a zipper and also make the dress pretty adjustable in case, you know, I get bigger or smaller. And yeah, so I'm gonna take you through that process. I hope you enjoy, and yeah, let's get into it. Alrighty, so these are all the pieces I cut for the bodice and also for the sleeves. In the beginning here you see me try out my pattern first on some lining fabric. I actually just used these pieces with the alterations that I made after, or well, I had to cut some new pieces, but that's alright. And I also obviously transferred that onto my pattern piece so I can keep that in my folder forever. So I am pinning my lining and I'm just kind of marking where I need to make changes, and after I did all of that I cut out my shell fabric, and you can see there's kind of like a droop at the end. That's gonna go away because that was wrong, but that's not bad, you can always cut away. And then I am ironing each seam open from the bodice and also from the shell fabric. I used this kind of like baby cloth material, but it's very comfortable, so I have no regrets. I also made 2 tie pieces that will go in the back. I just kind of cut out a shape, and I hemmed all the raw edges. You could also do this by, you know, making 2 pieces, sewing them together, flipping them inside out. But I didn't have that much fabric, in the beginning at least. I did get some more in the middle of this to make a actually voluminous skirt. Anyway, so these are the ties. I am going to sew these right sides together to the back, or well, the side panel, kind of. It's a kind of a back side panel. This is the armhole, and I'm going to sew these to it just with a centimeter below the other seam. I also needed this tie to actually properly try it on, so that was a good step. Here I am cutting out the sleeve pattern. I actually downloaded a sleeve pattern that I'm gonna link for you, but I adjusted it to the width of my fabric and also I just kind of rounded it out. Anyway, so I am actually overlocking the side seams and the top of the sleeve. I am going to be inserting elastic in that seam here. And so I have to iron a channel first to sew it down. And I check the width of my elastic, if it's gonna fit. And I basically just overlocked it so I didn't have to do a double folded hem, because that was kind of difficult with this fabric. And I also stop the elastic channel just, you know, underneath the armpit, like 8 centimeters from the side seam. I also hemmed the bottom. That's gonna be the easiest to do right now, and so I actually did that first. I always do the hems by ironing up as much as I want, and then while I sew, I fold it over one more time, and then it's gonna be a sort of a rolled hem. There you go. And now I am sewing down the curve of the sleeve arm thing, the elastic channel. I also grabbed my lining white thin fabric and I made 2 channels out of it where the elastic would fit through for a little bit of the ruffled gathering along the arm. So I pinned that down and I sewed each side and left an opening at each end to put the elastic through. I measured the elastic around my arm and then I cut 2 pieces of that and I fed that through both of these channels. I actually pinned the elastic before I went all the way through so I wouldn't lose it at the end. And this is what that looks like. And after that I also actually inserted the elastic into the shoulder thing, and I also sewed together the underarm seam. But I actually kind of left the elastic in the shoulder kind of long so I could still adjust it after I had tried it on with the bodice sewn onto it. This is my bodice and I am placing my sleeve right sides together. And I'm just gonna start where my elastic starts because I have to catch that in the seam of the top. And I'm gonna actually just sew on one side to check, and it actually was too far out. So it was, the elastic started too far underneath my armpit. So I had to move it a little bit more to the center of my body. But this is how I tried it on, and here you can see how I would tie it. And this is already good. All the changes have been made. Now I have to attach the lining to the shell fabric. I do that by folding inwards the sleeves and then placing the lining on top, right sides together, and simply sandwiching the sleeves inside. So I will be sewing along the sleeve hole as well as the rest of the top. And the elastic you have should stick out now and not inside. It should stick out of your top and not into the right side of your top. Mine did, but it wasn't a big deal. I just cut it off and it's just underneath the arm. Nobody's gonna see that anyway. And this is what it looked like. I also sandwiched the ties in between the lining and the shell fabric to make it look nice and neat from the inside at least. Then I am ironing the seam allowance down into the lining, and I'm gonna just sew a understitch just at the front part because the sleeves, it didn't matter, just the front, so the lining wouldn't peek up in my neckline. This is what it looks like, and it just kind of holds down the lining. Here you can also see how neat the sleeves look from the inside. Just a little bit of elastic peeking through. Also from the outside. Exactly. Next up, I sewed in this long channel type of band, and I also sandwiched a elastic in there. First, I am sewing on this long band onto the other side of my top so that it is like super loose and that I can like fit it over my head, because the goal is that I can fit it over my head and then make the elastic scrunch it up in between. So I am taking the elastic and I have marked how much I think I need. I also gave it a little more room, and then I am just sewing it right up in there into that channel that I made before. I mean, you could just sew all of this together with a top stitch, but it kind of worked out like this for me. And after that, I will be able to sew a basting stitch along the band part, along the fabric part, and I will just encase the elastic that way. And I just do this while sewing. I can scooch the fabric along the elastic and it works super well. Anyway, onto the skirt. I had these 2 panels that I cut up into triangles so they would make me a fake circle skirt, because I did not have enough for a circle skirt, but I ended up having a lot of volume with this technique. So I am showing you a little pattern graphic so you can figure that out for yourself. Now for combining the skirt with the top, I actually first sewed on the backside of the skirt to the scrunched up part around the elastic. I did not gather that part. I actually gathered everything else after that with 2 stitches, 2 basting stitches, and I just gathered it to fit the circumference of the bodice part. And here I am pinning the skirt only to the shell layer of the bodice. And you can see I used a lot of pins, and that works best for me. Now I'm going to sew all of these gathers down just with a stretch stitch, and I'm sewing in between the 2 lines of the gathering because then it's easiest to remove it after. So this is what it looked like. I am going to remove all the gathering stitches, and as you can see in the back, the lining is still free, and we'll get to that in a second. So for the lining, I actually started in the middle and on the side, and I kind of worked my ways together so everything would be even. I grabbed the lining and I fold it over to the inside, and then I pin it down on the inside. After that, after I've done a little piece of doing that, I actually flip my dress and I look at it from the outside, and I pin inside the ditch of the previous seam. So as you can see here, I will be sewing from the outside so the stitch can be hidden on the outside. And that's where I'm putting my pins, where I can see them. And this is what it looks like after. It's not super neat, but it works. There's no fraying edges or anything, so I'm satisfied. And as you can see on the outside, you can barely see the stitch, only at a few spots where I messed up. But you know, no one's getting that close. So yeah, the last thing I had to do was cut off the hem. I had to measure a lot for that because it was all weird from the way I made the skirt, but I just cut it and made this kind of thick hem. So yeah, here it is. As you can see, it is a very full skirt. I did not twirl because the leaves were in the way. And what I mostly like are actually the sleeves and my construction method, that I did not need to use a zipper. The elastic is very loose and I can eat as much as I want all day. And tie is also cute. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, follow my Instagram, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!